Hi, it's Kate with the Thaiger, and you're watching Thailand Top Stories, today's major news in Thailand and Southeast Asia. Stay tuned for a quick update on the COVID-19 situation in Thailand, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Starting today, the mandatory quarantine period for vaccinated travelers entering Thailand will be reduced from 14 days to 7. Those who are either unvaccinated or who cannot show proof of their vaccination status face a longer quarantine period of between 10 to 14 days. The mandatory isolation period is waived for vaccinated travelers entering Thailand through the pilot reopening projects on the islands of Phuket and Koh Samui. The mandatory isolation period is waived for vaccinated travelers entering Thailand through the pilot reopening projects on the islands of Phuket and Koh Samui. The government's Phuket Information Center recently announced that visitors arriving under the Phuket Sandbox project will now only need to stay in the SHA Plus hotel for 7 days. During that time, they can roam freely on the island, and on day 8, they can travel to other provinces. Also starting today, the nightly curfew in provinces classified as dark red zones for high COVID-19 infection rates will be shortened by just an hour. The stay-at-home order will now be from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. Previously, those in Bangkok and other dark red zones had to be home by 9. The CCSA will review the disease control restrictions again on October 11th and decide whether to ease measures or impose more restrictions. Thai media reports that police in Kanchanaburi have arrested a suspect they believe may have shot and severely injured a 15-year-old during protests in Bangkok back in August. The teenager has been in a coma since, and the shooting caused huge controversy. Many accused the police of using live ammunition and firing into the crowd of protesters. But police have always maintained that they have only used rubber bullets when attempting to disperse anti-government protesters at the demonstrations in Bangkok. The 28-year-old suspect faces charges of attempted murder and illegal possession of a firearm and ammunition. A new deal signed with AstraZeneca confirms the 18 billion baht purchase of 60 million vaccines next year for Thailand to use as booster shots. The Ministry of Public Health signed the deal with the COVID-19 vaccine manufacturer to acquire the booster shots over the course of 3 quarters of 2022. The plan calls for a rollout of a first quarter delivery of 15 million vaccines, followed by a second delivery of 30 million vaccines in the second quarter. The remaining 15 million vaccines would be delivered in the third quarter of 2022. In a bizarre accident in Nakhon Ratchasima, a pickup truck smashed through a wall and fell 6 floors in a parking garage. The accident took place on the 8th floor of a hospital parking garage. According to the Bangkok Post, witnesses say a man got into his truck after an argument and then accelerated into a wall. The truck then crashed through the wall and fell 6 floors. Just 2 people were injured. And here are the top headlines in Southeast Asia. In Myanmar, Reuters reports that the country's military government says the ongoing economic problems are caused by what they call outside factors, as well as the COVID-19 pandemic. But they are taking responsibility and working to revive the economy. The military seized power in the February 1st coup, and the economy has tanked since then. Reuters reports that the country's currency lost more than 60% of its value over the past month, leading to gold shops and money exchanges to close. In Vietnam, the Wall Street Journal reports that some U.S. businesses who have relied on production in the Southeast Asian country are now rethinking the location for factories, as strict lockdowns in Vietnam have crippled manufacturing for major companies. The report says Nike makes half its footwear in Vietnam and has lost 10 weeks of production due to factory lockdowns. In the Philippines, the news outlet Al Jazeera reports that the country's vice president, who has been a staunch critic of President Rodrigo Duterte's bloody war on drugs, has been nominated by the opposition coalition as their candidate for the May presidential election. In Cambodia, Nikkei Asia reports that the country has asked Indonesia to arrest and extradite the crew of an oil tanker accused of stealing $21 million worth of crude oil from Cambodia's first commercialized oil field. The crew were recently detained for questioning by Indonesian authorities, and the tanker's operator called for their release, saying their human rights were violated. In Malaysia, COVID-19 vaccinations will be required for all federal government workers, according to the Associated Press. The Public Service Department says nearly 98% of the federal government staff have been vaccinated. And now for a quick update on the COVID-19 situation in Thailand. Today, October 1st, the CCSA has reported 11,754 new COVID-19 cases and 123 coronavirus-related deaths. Since April 1st, in the latest wave of the virus in Thailand, a total of 1,586,366 confirmed COVID-19 cases have been reported. In the 24-hour period since the last count, the CCSA has reported 12,473 recoveries. There are now 115,233 people currently receiving treatment for COVID-19 in Thailand. And that wraps up the COVID-19 update. For more news on Thailand, go to thetiger.com or check out our evening show, Thailand News Today.